So thanks so much for joining this morning. We have a very nice webinar lined up here between a great collaboration I would like to see more of in the future between Pipedrive and Radyant. So I'm Niklas, I'm CEO and founder at Radyant. We are a Berlin-based boutique growth agency, especially in the field of SEO and AI search. And with me is my dear friend Margus Veeber, who's head of web at Pipedrive. Margus, if you like, you can introduce yourself in just a few words.
Sure. Thanks, Niklas. So, hey all, my name is Margus, working in Pipedrive for 5 years almost already as a head of web, leading our web operations, web function. So, yeah, there's a lot to do in that area, and quite excited to share some things today that we have done and we are doing.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Margus. So I don't want to spoil, but Margus has some very interesting testing insights, and we also need you to be interactive in that sense, because we need like your collective intelligence to tell us what you think about the test results. So, but not to spoiler anything. So what we will talk about in today's session is basically a selection of these things. So why your traffic is down. So if your traffic is not down, then you're very fortunate, maybe because your baseline was still relatively small. But I talked to probably, like, I would say a good dozen or more marketing leaders or founders from different companies that also were very successful in the SEO space before the whole AI search shift. And a lot of them have actually saw their traffic going down. And we just want to quickly reiterate why that happened. And we want to spoil the sauce, so to say, why it probably will go down even more. But we don't want to be pessimistic about it. We want to be very optimistic. So why not to worry too much about it? And what the whole mechanic behind this ecosystem shift basically is, how to drive more quality traffic and how to convert this traffic better. Because this is something that in the past, in especially the SEO field, wasn't talked about that much. So often it was just about content, it was about tag, it was about link building. But bridging the gap between the whole SEO and content space, and then conversion optimization, A/B testing, etc. This is, I would say, a fairly new intersection that we want to elaborate a little bit on today. So a lot of marketers were exposed to this tragedy this year. So this is a screenshot from the Google Search Console, obviously, where we see that the traffic has basically took quite a dip. This is for a set of reasons. So one of the reasons is especially Google's rollout of AI overviews. So I don't know how your state of knowledge is today, but a couple of months ago, there was still a lot of rumor about if it's not just people going to ChatGPT and not searching on Google anymore. I think the data now is relatively clear that depending on your target group, you might see a shift in user behavior going for research also to AI search platforms. This is clear, but the majority of the reason, or like the key reason for traffic going down, is not a user shift, but it's a shift in how Google handled the user's queries. So it was basically Google showing these AI overviews at the top of the search engine result page. And this is I find relatively confusing graphic from Ahrefs, which is a popular SEO tool. But the key message is like in the red bar, which is that on average, the click-through rate basically tanked by around 34%, which is quite a lot. And this is, I would say, a little bit in the middle between the traffic losses that we've also seen your clients, which were like between like maybe 10-20%, but some even 40%, especially if they've been exposed to a lot of top funnel content, glossary content, etc. So why the traffic went down is one part of the answer, but another part of the answer is, will we get the traffic back then from AI search? And I think the answer is is pretty clearly no, unfortunately, because AI search is not driving any meaningful traffic. And I'm not saying this as a pessimistic, so I love a lot of things about AI search. I just think you have to be clear about that these platforms are not built to drive traffic. So they're built to actually keep the user in the loop on the platform and only drive traffic when necessary. And you also see it, for example, that let's say ChatGPT oftentimes changes the behavior. So how often they perform a web search, etc. Because for a model provider or for like a chatbot provider, it's just additional cost. So if they have to answer a query from like foundational knowledge, it's much cheaper than going out doing a web search with all of that. And obviously, doing web search then leads to links being displayed, and then people clicking on the links and then going for some traffic. And it's not just my like hypothesis; it's also something that we see in the data. So what you can see here is a screenshot from Ahrefs Web Analytics. So Ahrefs, this SEO tool, but they have created something like a small GA4 version-ish. And you can also, so sending the slides afterwards, you can check it yourself under the source link. You can see across a portfolio of around 70,000 websites, the share of traffic by category. And you can see that search is still the biggest category, followed by direct, which makes sense because depending on the website, a lot of people might remember the URL name or might just type it in the browser bar, and maybe the browser auto-completes and you are immediately on the site. Then paid, then social, then unknown, could be everything. And then AI search is still the smallest. And it makes sense that these people are generally working in more like tech-savvy industries. So I think it's not about this data being flawed in any sense. It's just the underlying mechanic of an AI search platform not being incentivized, so to say, to send a lot of traffic. And the thing is, it's not just about ChatGPT or Perplexity. It's also about Google, because also Google is moving in the same direction with AI mode, which is basically the, how would you say it, like the sibling of AI overviews, or like the thing that will probably come after AI overviews. I tried to find a newer data point in that clarity here, but I couldn't find it. But I would say it's so it's fair to say that probably the data looks mostly the same. So what you can see here in this maybe a little bit confusing screenshot is an analysis by SimilarWeb and iPullRank. And the latest data point here was June 19, so in this summer. And you can see a comparison of the referral rate, which basically translates to click-through rate between Google search, which already included AI overviews. This is important to keep in mind, and AI mode. So basically the new Google experience. And you can see that the referral rate for Google search was at 23.5%, which is already significantly lower than what it was like back in the days 2-3 years ago. But AI mode is at 4%. And the idea behind it is that people are able to answer more and more of their questions within the platform, so within the search experience, so to say. And they don't have to click to the website to get the answer they need. And this is something that is a clear data point that will probably also be the same with ChatGPT, but we don't have it in that clarity yet. But it's something that we have to prepare for. So this is why I'm saying you probably also won't get the traffic back. So rather embrace the new reality than try to fight it. And what I hear when I talk to people that are also deep in the SEO space, so for example, head of SEOs and also people at other agencies. So there are people that are optimistic, but a lot of SEOs are also freaking out about this because they feel like the whole assumption that we have built this marketing motion on is basically burning down, like getting free, so to say, traffic from the platform to the site. But you find me today super chill because I don't really care about the absolute amount of traffic. I also feel like traffic quantity is simply the wrong KPI. It probably always was the wrong KPI, but I'm also guilty of looking at like constantly upwards trending Google Search Console click charts. I think a lot of people are guilty of this because we felt like there's a clear exchange rate between clicks and conversions. So if clicks in the Google Search Console go up, conversions will go up. But this has fundamentally changed. So because people are having a conversation within the platform before they click to the site, we have to rethink the user journey. And rethinking the user journey means that it's not longer looking like this, like searching on Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whatever, clicking to the site, getting information, searching again, clicking to the site, searching again, clicking to the site, searching again, then conversion. So obviously it's very simplified, but in the end, the key message here is you always had to click to the site. Maybe for some queries, you had like a featured snippet at the top of the overview for very simple queries, but mostly a search always resulted in a click to the site. But then we have this like zero click movement or zero click phenomenon, what basically leads us to seeing a behavior like this. You see a search and then you do a follow-up within the platform. So probably you guys also, as I would imagine that you're also like pretty tech savvy, working like in a tech savvy company. You probably also had the same experience. You ask ChatGPT or Perplexity, maybe even Google something, and then you don't click on the site, but you ask another question. And also the platforms are built more to do this. For example, Google AI Mode has a follow-up, like ask a follow-up question input field at the bottom of the screen, which gives me a clear incentive as a user to stay in the conversation. So this is why we keep searching. We do a follow-up. We keep searching, and then maybe, and I think this is important, we will click to the site to like deepen some information, like maybe check something, check pricing, look at some images. So I was doing research for like a family holiday, and then I wanted to check a hotel. Obviously, I want to look at the hotel at some point, and also like look a little bit at more than just 2-3 images that I'm displayed in like AI mode or ChatGPT. But then you do another search, you do another follow-up, and only then, and obviously still very simplified, you convert. But the total number of clicks has gone down significantly, but the total number of conversions did not. Because if your business model is basically providing software, selling something like tangible, it doesn't have to be physical, it could also be digital. But if your business model is not just getting people to the site and then selling ads, so this business model is probably a lot in danger. But if you actually sell something, why should the demand for your product or service be down? So it's just that people find it on a different way. And this is why I feel like, and it's just a term I felt explains this concept in a good way. I would say don't optimize for clicks, but optimize for conversation influence. So you want to be part of the conversation the users are having, either in AI mode, AI overviews, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot, depending on where your target group actually spends time. And I think a very important thing to consider is you won't get your branch mentioned for every query. So this is, for example, it's in German, but I will explain it to you. It's very simple. This is a screenshot from Peak AI, from like the AI search analytics platform, and it's a prompt from a customer we're working with, where we basically ask, what is the cost of applying for like a change of my house? So if I want to change the house, I want to like add something there. And in this example here, it's from AI overviews in Google, you won't see a single brand mentioned. So not our customer and also not competitors. And it's because the platform feels like it's not appropriate to mention a brand here. But still, what we want to achieve is we want to be part of the grounding. So if users are searching for something, then an LLM will perform like a web search, a grounding. It won't do it every time, but Google will basically do it every time. And then you want to be part of the sources. Why? Because if you're part of the sources, you can at least influence the narrative and you can be part of the answer. Even if you're not mentioned, you can ensure that, for example, the right costs are communicated, or you could provide certain data points that you mentioned in your content. So, and this is something that at the start of the research journey is something that you should aim for. So you should rather aim for being part of the citations and being part of the conversation in that sense, and not like stress out too much about, my brand is not mentioned, my brand is not mentioned. If no other brands are mentioned, the probability is very high that the provider, either Google or ChatGPT, doesn't feel that it's right for the brand to be mentioned. But if you think about a continuous conversation, that at some point a user might ask, hey, what's the best like architecture office, or like the best people to help me with applying for a building permit here, then you want your brand to be mentioned, because there it matters. If you think about a research journey, you have a house, you want to change something, you're looking for like regulatory stuff, for costs, etc. And then at some point you might ask, hey, what are good providers to help me with that? Then you want to be sure that your brand is mentioned. And in this case, for example, for our client Planico, we have achieved this. So we have it as a part of the top answer, like in the top of the response. And then also further down, when different providers are listed, where we have like big national offices, and then also specialized digital providers. Obviously, Planico Building is a prop tech company, so it's a specialized digital provider. And this is something that we see works pretty well. And it works particularly well if you show up consistently. So in this particular case here, we track the prompts obviously over a long period of time, and we see that we're mentioned very consistently. So obviously there are small fluctuations. There might be a day where if we track the same prompt, we are not mentioned. But as long as we have like a very high consistency of being part of the conversation, we are very confident that it will also lead to good results for us. And maybe just as a side note, this is also only driven by own content. So we can see here that Planico Building is mentioned for this particular prompt only based on our own content that we created. So it's not based on us being in Reddit and like some PR stuff. So this is a topic for a different webinar, a different session, or maybe for LinkedIn. I just want you to know that obviously earned media can be important, but it's not the only way to win this game. And it's highly dependent on your industry and the vertical. So don't fall for like the easy big analysis where like millions of prompts are analyzed, and then Reddit is like at the top of the citations and Wikipedia. If you look at your own industry, it might look completely different. And Reddit might be part of the conversation, but it's not necessarily, it's not a necessity to win Reddit to become part of the AI answer. So tying this all back to conversions, if I would show you this chart of leads, so it's basically from Planico Building, organic leads that we track on the site. So no paid, no social, whatever. It's just organic search or AI search. So what we consider organic. We basically started after this 46 leads in the month, and you can see how this whole thing took up. So if you compare it from the beginning of this period to the highest high we reached, we basically 5x'd the amount of monthly leads. And I think that you wouldn't believe that this is the corresponding Google Search Console chart. So this was the chart I showed you earlier, and I want to be very transparent about it. When we saw the traffic going down here, we were also a little bit worried, but we felt like, okay, we have to stay consistent with how we interpret the whole ecosystem shift. So being part of the conversation, trusting in having the right content, and then becoming part of the AI answer. And then we probably will get less traffic, but hopefully the traffic will be of better quality. And it turned out very well for us. It's just one example that is like very, very strong due to this combination of the basically trending chart down and then the trending chart up. So it's basically a vice versa. So leads go up, traffic go down. But it basically changed our whole perception of what success in SEO and like organic growth means, because traffic is complete vanity in that sense. So at least the absolute traffic quantity. So we basically 5x leads while traffic declined 20% roughly by embracing this new reality of online discovery. And I just want to give you a quick, like very hands-on view on how we did it, because I showed some first ideas, but we basically followed, and I will put it a little bit simplistic, but we followed a very simple process. So the first part of it is we made sure that we really understand the research journey of our clients' future customers. And this did not start with SEMrush or Ahrefs or an SEO tool, but it started with talking to experts or the users. So we do it now with basically all clients in our portfolio. We do expert interviews with them. We ask them a lot of stuff about the different topics that we will pursue. And we also like to get an introduction to an actual customer to talk with them, like 15 minutes or something. So we just did it with also other clients, and the insights are invaluable because we really understand what people care about and what they search for. And the biggest misconception in my view is that people feel like, yeah, and SEMrush and Ahrefs will give me the same insights basically, but it won't, because especially if you think about like mid-tail and long tail things, the volumes you see there will mostly be zero. So how should this lead your strategy? You basically wouldn't ever consider these topics. But if you talk to like multiple people, either in the company or customers, and you see like patterns coming up again and again, you get a really strong like conviction about certain things about the user or about the target group. So it sounds very simple, but I see like only very few companies do this consistently, and not only do it like once. Okay, we will do like 3 user interviews now this quarter, and then the next interviews will be in the next quarter. So this is not a good process. A good process is to do it consistently and to basically build like an insights pipeline from that. A second part of how we achieved this is we made sure that our content is heavily cited across that research journey. So this is also a screenshot from PKI, and you can see that there are fluctuations. Obviously, it's fast changing environment, but we started around something a little bit below 60% citation share. So you will see that the numbers can be above 100%, because if multiple URLs from our domain are used within the same prompt, then it will basically be above 100%. But you can see that we significantly increased this share over time, even with the fluctuations, and even it's across all platforms. It's across AI overviews, ChatGPT and Perplexity, even with ChatGPT basically going nuts about doing web search, not doing web search. Now maybe they have to change. I have to save some money again because Sam Altman is feared by Gemini, etc. Still, we managed to basically be part of the conversation or be part of the grounding process across a big range of different prompts. And this is something that I feel like is like the first real early signal of success. So if you become a citation and you become a citation across a big set of different prompts that you track, this is something that will, if done right, lead also to your brand being mentioned. Then the third part, what we did is we made sure to embed the service as a natural solution to a user's query. And this sounds so simple, and probably you will say, yeah, okay, please next slide. But I tell you, when we audit, and we did, I don't know, probably like 40 or 50 audits, like analysis of companies and their SEO organic growth motions this year, there are companies that answer things so generically in their content, I could basically cut out that paragraph and just paste it in again on a competitor's website. And this is not the right thing to do in the future. And I also see a lot of people still being afraid of like making the content too commercial feeling, and because Google might then not rank it high, whatever. I don't know actually where this comes from. So from my experience, it's absolutely the wrong way to do. And what we do, for example, is if we give an answer to users query in our content, we always make sure to tie it back to our brand. So it might not always mean the brand is mentioned like in every second sentence. Obviously, this will be content that is also not it's not cool for the user and also not cool for the bots. But if we think about like you're planning doing a building in Bavaria, etc., and you're unsure about if the authorities will give you like a green light towards it, then we won't say you can do this, you can do that, you should consult an architect, whatever. But we will say Panaco Building knows the specific requirements of the building authorities in Bavaria and basically accompanies you through the whole process. So this is a very specific answer, and it sounds very simple. But if you do this, then you can increase your chances significantly to become part of the conversation. So in this particular example, I just looked up on Perplexity, building permit request Bavaria. So Bauvoranfrage, it's a thing that is important for Panaco Building, for their target group. And if I then ask and do a follow-up prompt, like who can support me with that, we see Panaco Building being used as a source, and we also see it being explicitly mentioned as like a specialized provider that has like an all-in-one service and basically accompanies you through the whole process. And obviously, this is just based on our own content. So it's not based on us being mentioned across like different listicles, etc. It's just based on that. And there's no guarantee that this happens. But what I can guarantee you is if you do not mention your brand and just explain things very generically, how should an LLM know that it should mention you? So there's just a guarantee that you won't show up if you don't put it into your content. And then obviously the last part is we made sure that our landing pages are optimized for conversion. Because if we have less traffic, we have to do more with it if we still want to grow. This is like the whole concept of this talk, like AI killed your traffic, how to do more with less. And what we did is, for example, and I don't want to go into too much detail because Margus will tell us a lot more about the whole conversion optimization aspect in a second. We made sure that, for example, our hero section, like the above the fold section, is on point with different elements like trust elements, dual coding between like the headline and the visual, etc. And what we also did is we provided different paths of conversion. So I'm a big believer in using like a good conversion asset, which can be like a lead magnet when it makes sense for the user. And in this particular example, we felt it makes a lot of sense, and it also works quite well that we provide like free samples or like templates if people want to basically do the building permit request on their own, because we don't want to force our product on them. We believe that the service is so good that if we will give them something, they can try it out on their own, but then in the end they feel like it's too complicated, and now they have like requests from me to send in other data. Okay, wait, what was this provider's name? Panaco Building. Okay, I will reach out to Panaco Building. So this is just how we believe in these things. And also we wanted to make sure that it's part of the site layout, and we basically put it in like a sidebar on the desktop, and on mobile we have it like in a fixed bottom scroll bar. Yes. So to tell you more about the whole conversion optimization will be Margus in a second, but from like my perspective of the whole ecosystem shift and the whole like how do I become part of the conversation, do I have to worry about traffic, etc., I would say there are 4 key takeaways, and obviously we could do like an hour-long webinar about each one of them, but you have to ensure that you understand the research journey of your future customers, and this is deeply connected to audience research or to like subject matter experts in your company. It's not SEO tools and all of that. It's also not a very sophisticated perplexity prompt that scrapes Reddit content and then tells you what users want. It's also not that. Ensure your content is heavily cited across the research journey because it will increase your chances of being part of the conversation. Ensure that you embed your product and service as a natural solution, because if you don't mention yourself in your own content, the chances of you being mentioned by the LLM is 0. And ensure that your landing pages are optimized for conversion. And with that, to dive deeper into all things conversion optimization, I'm handing over to you, Margus.
Thank you so much, Niklas. Super valuable stuff. So let's speak about conversion a little bit. As I mentioned already, leading web function and the Pipedrive for quite many years already, which also means quite a lot has happened during that time and a lot of different learnings. And personally, the cool part about web is that it's kind of not slowing down. The world is moving quite fast around the web, and it's super interesting to be part of all of that. And I would say that's also one of the reasons why we actually landed here together today, because like SEO, AI, web conversion, they're all getting very, very close to each other. And the reality is AI is changing the rules a little bit. Traffic might be down for many companies, but here what most people are actually missing, this actually, in my opinion at least, isn't a crisis. It's like forcing function, which just means we need to get closer to be better at converting the traffic we do get. So have to get closer to conversion optimization. And at the end, to be honest, I find it even a win-win, because if we try to improve our web conversion for SEO, for AI, we'll also do it for other channels, paid, brand, whatever. So bigger win is hidden behind all of that. But let's go a little bit how the customer journey is changing. As Niklas mentioned, AI is leading the conversation. There's a lot of conversation happening on the AI platform, and people might search your brand later, which also means focus is coming back to the homepage. For a long time, focus wasn't always on the homepage because Google search was giving you a lot of different pages. You might have 25 other pages on the homepage, and Google is directing users to those pages. But homepage now is back in the game again, I would say, which is a good thing, because that means there's a really direct focus where to put all of the efforts in. And even if the traffic is lower, the intent might be way higher when they're coming from AI tools, because they have already done the pre-educational part. They already know about different things. So every visitor counts more. And long story short, you just kind of need to make sure that homepage closes the deal now, not just informs about the product. And how to do it? AI might take the first hit. It will handle the first part, but now your part is to handle the later stage. No more fluff. Customers kind of need the direct product information. It needs to answer the real questions people might have. Messaging should be like customers are really speaking, so no fluff. You should show real product. You should show real features, screenshots, user interface. Because AI might give them all of them information, but your job is now to really close the deal. How to do it exactly? A couple of different options from my experience, at least. Especially the first two are like customer logos, case studies. You have to show companies something that they will recognize. It might really vary about your industry, about your tool, but if you can match their industries or their company size, if they're in real estate industry, can you show them the real estate logos? Can you showcase something that's relevant for them? Because then they also feel that, okay, this tool actually might be for me, because I can see other similar companies like mine using that kind of tool. Same applies to the industries. Like, you have to be specific. Don't leave them wondering, like, is this tool good for this my specific industry? Help them to make that decision. Take away the worry that they're not really sure if that's good fit for them. Messaging mentioned a little bit, but in general, just cut the corporate speak. Say what you do in 10 words. I'm quite often trying to do like a quick test. You can show people your website, even in like informal settings, who maybe have never seen your product before. Can they read back the messaging? Do that kind of feedback test. Did they understood it? Did they understood what your product is about? Does your messaging just make sense? Because oftentimes you might fall in love with your own messaging because maybe you were the one writing it, but always the external opinion would be quite nice thing to get. And product image is kind of mentioned already, but real screenshot show the actual product doing the job they need to do later in the app, because that's gonna help them to feel familiar also with the product if they land already inside of that. Or if your service provider, showcase what they are getting from that service, but make everything recognizable for them when they are making their next steps. Because all of that at the end is like reducing friction. and increasing trust. And all of that ties to one main thing, which I'm always big believer is like know your ICP, ideal customer profile. Everything starts from that. Everything Niklas mentioned that, expert interviews, all of that, everything ties into that because you have to understand what their world is about. And maybe a good thing to share kind of my logic, how I'm always thinking about everything. Like 3 different stages. But if you get closer to the customers, your ideal type of profile, and to start having a way to get insights from them, sometimes those smallest insights and those snippets can really help to add something small to the website even, which is just not their assumption anymore, but it's a real problem solving. So I always follow these 3 different steps: customer problems, generate insights from them, and then of course validate. Because if you solve a real customer problem, you're not just copying competitors or looking for a cool design, which oftentimes is the case that people are quickly going to the competitor website or they're seeing some cool design trends and just trying to copy those things without having any information or basis if those are even good things to do. So first step here, customer problems. In my personal opinion, this is the gold mine. Like this real voice of customers, like what are they trying to accomplish? Where are they struggling? What language are they using? All of that kind of things. You have to understand those things the most deeply. How do you get those problems? There's probably like endless list of ways, but a couple of main things. Join the sales calls if you have a sales team or if you're doing the sales calls. Track those things, see what they're mentioning, what are their needs, what are their problems, where do they feel the friction, and then always try to figure out how can you kind of influence those things on the website already. Support tickets, if you have a support team, you probably have a huge log of support tickets, previous support tickets. See if you can scrape all of those, then use AI to like summarize them, group them, ask follow-up questions. How can you influence those support problems on the website, maybe proactively? User interviews, if you happen to have a research team in-house, perfect thing to do. There's also external providers for user interviews, but that's always a good and quick way to get some insights. Surveys, always recommend to do like some on-website surveys, but you can do them via email. There's also quite many different ways how to run surveys, but just ask some really targeted questions to understand, what's actually working for them or what's not working for them. And the last thing, which can be actually one of the easiest things, is most of the companies and tools are out there visible in different review sites, which means there's probably tens, if not hundreds or thousands of reviews about your tool, positive, negative, you never know. But there's quite some cool tricky ways how to scrape those informations. And if you have that information, use AI to again summarize it, group it into different categories, ask those follow-up questions. What are the potential ways how to influence those problems on the website already? Because maybe it's just an onboarding issue. Maybe they need some information before they start using the product. There's probably endless of ways how to proactively do something on the website already. Second stage is always insights, which are always backed by the problems. There's quite many different frameworks. You shouldn't be too precious about just one framework. You should use all of them. Depends on your context, depends on the timing, whatever attend works for you. Just sharing some of the things here that I have been using, finding them quite helpful. First of is always jobs to be done framework. It's good to really understand like what are the jobs they are hiring your product for, what they need to get done. And if you compare those with the problems, you can probably generate more insights from there. My favorite one actually is How Might We framework. You take your problems, let's say you have a list of 25 problems, which are the main problems for customers, and then you start ideating like how might we influence those things. If you have those questions in that format, it gets quite easy to pull out already like strategic test ideas for those problems again. And then every problem is connected with the solutions. That's always the key thing. There shouldn't be any solutions which are not connected to the problem, because otherwise, what's the point of doing those things? And always there should be some prioritization. Again, I'm not a big believer of being fixated to one specific industry standard prioritization framework. There are so many out of those. You should always create something that really works for you, because every business is different, every tool is different, every team is different. So just try to find like the easiest way how to prioritize all of those insights and test ideas, based on value, time, effort. But again, what makes for you, don't over-engineer it, and then get some test out. And the last stage has to be validation always. Whenever possible, you should test your solution in one way or another. Start small, learn fast. Most ideas might fail, and that's also fine. That's the part where the iteration always comes in. I'm a big believer that you should always iterate, even if you have a losing test, even if you have an inconclusive test. Every test should have at least 10 iterations following up, because you should never fall in love with one specific solution, even if it was a winning one or inconclusive. But if you fall in love with the problem, then it makes it quite easy to find ways how to really actually make it work. So even if you had one inconclusive test, but it was backed up by a problem, try to figure out what are the next solutions there, how to make it really work. So fall in love with how to make it work, not the solution itself. Because at the end, if your solution is backed up by a problem, winning rates most of the times are way higher. At least from my experience, I have always seen whenever we're testing something that's really based on some proper customer problems, there's a way bigger chance that it's going to be a winning one. So the key here, never skip the column one. Most teams ideate like in silos, just based on opinions, but your customers already know what you should fix actually. So try to use it. And all of that at the end is loop. It's not linear. Every test feeds back into the customer problems with new learning. So always keep this loop spinning. That's my recommendation. Maybe let's share some examples. These are like cherry-picked wins. Some surprised us, some failed. Key thing is here that every test taught us something about our customers. So it's always important to focus on the thinking, not just the results, because failed tests can be also good and give you some really good learnings. Cool. First test. We were running a value proposition test on our homepage hero section, where our thinking was that if we already showcase a couple of main things that we know from customer interviews and research, that these are the important and relevant things for our potential customers. If we showcase those already upfront without them even needing to scroll, we're going to have a lower bounce rate, higher trials, better conversion at the end. Everybody, if you want, you could open a chat now and let us know what do you think. Was it an increase, decrease, no chance? And then I will let you know what were the results.
Can I also vote?
Of course.
Yeah, guys, please open the chat at the right. I hope you can all use the chat. You should be able to.
So again, test is about homepage hero section, adding more content, which also means there's more information.
The chat. I had this before. So then please just use the Q&A and put your vote in the Q&A. I had this before that it's some Google Meet setting that people cannot use the chat as viewers. Just go to the Q&A and put it in there. Thanks for pointing it out, Will and Domantas. So Will says increase, Domantas says no change. So guys, just go to the Q&A. It's the 9 dots at the right bottom corner. Then click on that and go to Q&A, and then you can ask a question. We will hijack the Q&A feature now for that. So Marcel says increase. Miteki also says 1, which is increase. So people seem to think it's an increase.
Yeah. And that actually, we validated our hypothesis. This brought a significant decrease, like it was almost, if I remember, like 7 or 8% uplift on the conversion on the homepage. So that's actually really good. And it's interesting one, because I have seen similar trends from some other companies that even though you make the hero section way more noisy, it's a good thing actually, because you're bringing out the good information. Because oftentimes the trend is that hero section has to be just H1 and then 1 sentence for the subtitle and then CTA button and that's it. But reality is you can really add more noise in a good way to the hero section and it can have a really good impact. So we validated this test. Next one, something we're also running on our homepage. we know that our potential customers or who could use our product, they have some specific problems because they have to have a reason why they're looking for a new CRM or first time to use CRM. So we know those problems again from our research, interviews, all of that. Where we had an idea, let's contrast it with the solutions that Pipedrive basically can offer to them, and this will increase conversions. So made it like a nice visual way. Also use some copy to really address those pain points with our potential solutions. Another time for chat/QA.
So we have increase from Will. Marcel says decrease. Obviously different opinions here.
Yeah, which is already interesting, to show up.
Anna Maria says
that everybody has different opinion. Like it's,
yeah.
I could have one opinion, but it might not mean anything at the end. So
yeah,
definitely.
Okay. Anna Maria says definitely increase. Anyone thinks it's no change? I think you can reveal.
Yeah, in my head, I was also like, this has to be an increased one because like I did a mistake that I fall in love with the solution here because I really like that solution. I'm not gonna lie, but actually it was inconclusive. There was zero effect on that, nor negative nor positive, which was sad for me. But with this idea, actually, this is really interesting one. When I mentioned also the iteration, this idea is backed up by a real problem. So we know that those problems exist for customers, which means theory is there. We just we need to figure out what's the ideal solution, how to showcase that, and I'm 100% sure we're going to get into the winning version at some point. We just need to iterate. Maybe we need to improve the copy. Maybe we need to make some visual tweaks, but we're going to make it win 100% sure. Just this way probably wasn't that good, but again, it wasn't the losing test also. So potential is there. We know the problem is there. We just have to find a way how to make it work. Cool. Next one. Something we're also running on our homepage. Usually we just have a static image there, but we decided let's add like a thumbnail for a demo video because it's quite common. I see it quite often that people are saying like, hey, you should have a demo video which can like maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes that will explain the product, will showcase the visually product already. Customers are really familiar with the product then. So we added a video there, and that was the only change. What do you think? How did it go?
Increase, decrease. I always like it when you guys have like different opinions because you can argue for basically all of this. This is why like real life
we're testing.
So interesting. Yeah. So we have increase, decrease, no change.
We have all of the options. Perfect.
Yeah, we have everything. Nice.
Actually, this brought a huge drop in conversions. It was probably like 6 or 7% drop in the conversion. And personally, I have actually seen when we're running this test, I was quite confident that that's going to actually lose because I have seen the similar pattern for many historical tests already. The moment you add hero video to hero section, there's a big potential that it's going to lose because yes, you think that it's going to give a lot of information, but actually it's the distractions. They might open the video, but then they might just close the page. Maybe they don't want to even watch it for 60 seconds. So usually it's more a distraction. From experience, I have seen that if you add the video somewhere else on the page, it might actually work really well because that means they're already more invested. They're scrolling around on the website. But if you add it to the hero, at least from our experience, it doesn't have a good impact on the conversion. So, but yeah, interesting to see different opinions. And I think that's the last one, which we did on our pricing page. Also maybe interesting one. Initially, we just had like the control version. We had just a heading, which was choose your plan. Easy, basic, simple in that sense. We were like thinking, but in that stage, they might not even know like what's the big difference on the plans yet. So why are we letting them to choose the plan? Then we decided, let's go like more value-driven headline. So like, you can close more deals faster. And plus we added those reassurance moments that there's 14-day trial, no commitment, you can make changes anytime. We didn't change anything with the plan selection itself. You can still choose all of those plans, but it's more just like a reassurance that, choose whatever you want right now. It's no big deal. It just matters that you can start testing out the tool itself. What do you think? Okay, we have a common line here. People think it's
increase. Interesting.
And actually, this was a good win. We
strong guys.
We kind of understood that yes, user anxiety, fear of commitment is a major point of friction in that stage. They are quite early stage in their journey yet. So by replacing the pressure-based headline with like more value-driven one, adding the reassurance, we can successfully increase the signups and conversion rate. So that was an interesting one that everybody agreed on that one at least. But yeah, that's the beauty of testing. You never know. Cool. To slowly start wrapping it up, maybe some learnings. The first one definitely ties back to the first example that I showed where we added more noise to the hero section. And we have seen it with so many other tests also that less is not always the best. Sometimes it's also good to remove some things, but you shouldn't just strive for minimalism because quite common, especially like in design industry nowadays, it's everything should be super minimal, as least information, just design-wise super sleek. For conversion, that might really work. So it's more like if you come from the perspective that what customers need to see without them making least interaction, like, without them scrolling, how much things you can already show to them. Of course, there's a fine design balance which you need to follow, but in general, less is not always the best. Just general thumb of rule of good to be mindful is that different traffic can act very differently. Different types of paid traffic, different types of free traffic, AI traffic, all of that can act very differently on your website on the same page. So if you have those insights, if you have that data, if you have those dashboards, try to take some time to really understand what traffic works somehow, because oftentimes with some tests also we have seen that some tests are really working out for some kind of traffic, but some tests actually are not working out for some kind of traffic. So just good to be mindful there, and maybe sometimes you need some different pages for different types of traffic, have separate tests there, different types of tests there. But again, all of that kind of feeds you this information that, okay, that type of customer from that channel is on that stage, what kind of information they need on the website during that stage. All of that really makes sense to dive deeper there and understand. You can go bold also. That's kind of my favorite one. Like, we're living in an attention era, like probably it's what the attention today is like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, the attention span, like it's getting way too short already. That's crazy. But you have to somehow get the attention on the website fast also. Like, it doesn't mean you need to do like some radical or big changes or overhaul everything, but like try to go bold with some of the small things. Sometimes it can be just making the homepage H1 really catchy, something that separates you from the competitors maybe, or something that just catches the attention. Like, okay, that's interesting. Maybe sometimes even like try to go too bold just to play around the limit a little bit. But try to do some things that will make some visitors, to really notice you or remember you. There's probably different ways for that. Use customer insights. We discussed that already, but your best ideas will come from our customers, not competitors or some design trends. So really lean into this one. Cool design you saw somewhere. That's probably going to tank your conversion. Pretty doesn't mean effective. That award-winning layout that might confuse actual users. So always test function over form. Because, but it's always kind of the struggle, because especially when the website, and if you have a bigger company, many people might have some opinions. Somebody saw some cool website somewhere, some new SaaS company popped up who had a really cool design for something. Doesn't really say anything if you don't know the data behind that. So always think about customer problems. And this ties to the last one also. Your assumptions, they might probably wrong. My assumptions most often are wrong. That's why we're also testing. The more confident you are, the more important it is to test also, because it's quite easy to fall in love with the solution, but you have to fall in love with the problems, and then you can find the best solutions anyway. But don't just go for the solutions directly. Of course, disclaimer: these aren't the rules; these are patterns I have just seen. Your results, your learnings might vary, so always try to test and put them into your own context. And maybe the last part, we can touch a little bit about the tooling. Keeping it quite general here, there's like tens and hundreds of different A/B test toolings which you can use. There's no right or wrong in that sense. That really matters. Like, what kind of business do we have? Tool, service, software, how big the company is. So I have some experience like with Optimizely, Amplitude Web, A/B Test, Chameleon, but there's tens of others out there. So don't be too fixated on the tool. What you definitely should keep your eye on is all of the AI improvements, which are also affecting in a good way all of the optimization tools. For example, the prompt-based experimentation is getting bigger. I think there's a now even term like it's a vibe experimentation or something. There's some new term coming up. But I actually really like the idea because oftentimes testing means that you need engineering effort to build out some new layouts, some new more complex solutions. If it's not just like most of the tools have like visual editor to just change the copy or change the color of the button. But the moment you want to go like a little bit more deeper into testing, you need already custom code. Prompt-based experimentation is something that basically helps you to do that without engineering help, which is really good, especially if you have like a smaller team, smaller resources. You can just prompt your way, you can share the designs. Some of the tools soon, I think, already are letting you to connect it with Figma, which means if you have a design, just prompt your way into the new variation, then you can run a test quite quickly because that's going to help, just test faster, learn faster, iterate faster, get your conversion up faster. When you're testing, you could explore like multi-arm-banded test. You could try to do multiple tests at once on the same page in different sections. There's a lot of different ways how you should always push the limits. There's always some industry standards, but just try to be, learn about all of the topic in that sense, see where you can push some boundaries. And the last part, which personally I feel really like this is really important part, is the documentation and the test repository, because yes, you can like run some tests, you can do some cool stuff, you might have some winning tests, losing tests, but documentation is so underrated. Like you have to use some kind of good tool to log all of the test results, all of the learnings, all of the hypotheses, all of the designs, because time goes fast, people might change, team might change, but you want to make sure that you have all of the learnings and all of the historical information and all of the future information also, which are connected to customer problems, everything in one place. And personally, I have seen that quite like popular no-code tools like Notion or Airtable can be really good and flexible for that kind of things. Especially why is that those tools also have AI included in the software already, which means, let's say in 12 months, you have like a nice repository of A/B tests you have done, learnings, iterations in a structured way. You can use their own AI tools to like ask follow-up questions like, what are the patterns we have seen? What are the potential follow-up tests we should do on the pricing page or on the home page? So for some new insights maybe we have missed. So if you really nail down the documentations, you really nail down the learnings, you try to write out all of the stuff that you learned from something and all of the stuff that you try to achieve something, AI will get really powerful inside of that documentation repository. So my recommendation, really lean into that one. But in general, don't get too paralyzed by the tools. Pick one, learn deeply, focus on testing methodology and the mindset over the features. The mindset, in my opinion, is the most important thing, leaning into the customer problems, having that kind of mindset always, that's the key thing. And yeah, important is that you just start thinking from the customer perspective, and then all of the good stuff will follow. And I think it's time for Q&A if there's any questions coming up.
Thank you, Margus, so much. So guys, you can use the Q&A feature for what it was actually built now again and not for voting. And ask us any questions, no matter if it's the first part or the second part. We can start by answering the first one that already came in quite at the beginning from Domantas. Could you share some insights on how your paid search ads were affected by these AI overviews? Margus, I don't know, do you want to say something about it? Otherwise, I can also answer.
I think you can go for that and I can take the second one.
Perfect. We'll do it. So we have not seen a significant effect on it. If you think about regional differences, so in Germany, for example, ads for AI overviews or for AI mode are not rolled out yet. If we think globally, they are in rollout or in early testing, at least for AI overviews in the US. But always just based on if you use like AI Search Max or these different AI-based features, also broad match. I think it will probably, and this is not only my assessment, it's also an assessment from Bob Meyer, who's one of the co-founders from PPC Mastery. You will probably see CPCs rising and a little bit of the like unnecessarily long tail going away because the total inventory of available clicks on ads will decrease. But Google probably won't communicate their shareholders that they earn less money. So this is why probably the ads will get more expensive, but in theory, the quality of traffic should also increase. So, but we don't have any first-hand insights yet. If there are any, I think also best place to follow people. Like honest shout out here is Bob Meyer, PPC Mastery, and Miles McNair, because they share a lot about the like paid search, cutting edge stuff. I would suggest to check what they're saying about it. Then you will probably always have the freshest information. Cool. Margus, you want to go with the second one?
Yep, I can do that. So that's actually a really good question, and why homepage is getting more important again, because in the past, like that's gonna definitely be the trend anyway. Today it's probably not that relevant yet, but in the past, customers might just look for, enter your tool name and alternatives, or they might Google stuff, they might land on your comparison pages, they might land on some feature pages. With AI, they might do all of that discussions already inside of the ChatGPT, for example. Like they might just discuss, what are the best features for something. They get all of that information. And then if they want to visit your product, they're going to probably just Google Pipedrive, hit enter, and the first option there coming up is the homepage. So it's going to help your brand quite a lot, but also means they're going to just search for your brand name and that's it, which means they're going to land back on the homepage, not some specific feature pages, because they're having those specific discussions already on the inside of the AI platforms. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Otherwise, we can also do follow-up afterwards.
Yes.
We have a question from Anna Maria, also sounds very interesting. When it comes to leveraging industry-specific problems, would you optimize the homepage with logos and pain points, or still create dedicated URLs for each industry, or both?
This is a brilliant question, and honest answer, both. Like you should always have dedicated pages for different industries, which are like going really deep into those, how your product helps in those industries, maybe show visuals, screenshot how it would work for those. But that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't do something on the website, on the homepage. If there's some way to like indicate, hey, we have those, like if you know that you have 3 main industries who are using your tool or your service, then you can quite easily showcase 3 different columns of customer logos already split it into those industries and kind of visually just indicate that, hey, we have those industries, because oftentimes you don't even need to like call out things too loudly. I'm really big believer of small like visual indications that are kind of hinting that, yep, we have those industries, or we have those case studies, or others. There are quite many cool visual tricks how to showcase some case studies for some things. But yeah, definitely both. Just with the homepage, it's always, you have to be more clever in some way how to like, because you most probably have like bunch of industries that you want to target, not just one. Then it's kind of like, how can you make it work for all of those different industries, but same time still kind of applying for those specific industries. So yeah, have to be a little bit sneaky and find some good visual ways how to indicate those. But 100% you should have different pages also where you can go really dive deep into those. And those probably also AI might see that at some point. And if they're just Googling something, those are always useful.
Awesome. Next question we have from Miteki. She asked, A/B testing landing page features, how long do you recommend testing for, and how do you decide how many to run in parallel? Like, how do you attribute success to A/B test if multiple changes?
Really good question. Really difficult one to answer actually, because like how long do you need to test? That really matters on your first of all traffic. But second, also like your conversion rate, because at the end you want to make sure that, when you're testing and measuring, you want to get to the meaningful number of conversions to really get to the statistical significance. So that really varies, but with the small traffic, it might be difficult. Really depends how much traffic you have. How to decide how many tests to run in parallel? There's no ideal answer probably. We have been pushing the limits quite a lot, and you want to see like where stuff is going to break, and how can you see and how to attribute success if we have multiple changes. That's kind of balancing itself out. I know that there's inside of the optimization industry, there's always 2 different opinions, like, hey, you should have just 1 test per page, or you should have multiple ones. We have done both of them. Currently, we see that doing multiple tests will work out also quite well. The results are kind of, how to say it easily, like they're kind of balancing out itself, and the numbers at the end are matching. Of course, we have like smart data people, smart data analysts, who are double checking things that it's working out. But yeah, from our side, it seems doable, and it helps to increase the velocity also.
Awesome. Hope this answered the question, Miteki. If you have further questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A. Otherwise, you can also always reach out to us on LinkedIn. I think it's the best platform. So just check Margus's profile, check my profile if you're not connected yet. Very happy to get connected. Other than that, I would say we are already a little bit over time, so we will close it for now. Margus, first of all, thanks so much to you for coming on today, sharing so much insights, also from your hands-on experience from Pipedrive. I will quote Will now with his chat message. Guys, that was a goldmine of insights. What an hour. Thanks a lot. Thanks to you, Will, for coming on. Obviously, if you want to rewatch, etc., just saying it again, we will provide the recording somewhere, I think, around the afternoon, upload to YouTube. You can rewatch, share it with colleagues, etc. And we are also very happy, if you feel like there was interesting insights for you and you want to share something of that on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. Feel free to tag us. We will obviously also respond to that. Other than that, I wish all of you, and especially you, Margus, a great Christmas time. If you do not celebrate Christmas, then a great winter time. Thanks so much. All the best. And I hope you will start the new year with a lot of more clarity in terms of how to convert the less traffic we will probably get way better. So you can also see your leads or revenue going through the roof.
Thanks, Niklas. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thanks so much. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.